just like that, it's time for our weekly roundup of all the things lady just ain't gonna do this week. Number 1, act like Will Smith is a violent criminal because Chris Rock fucked around and found out. Okay, so lady was really hoping that this would be a piece of news that by the time it was mentioned here on this podcast, it would have just as soon been forgotten. But alas, we are still the fuck talking about Chris Rock getting slapped by Will Smith at last weekend's Oscar Awards. For those of you who somehow found bliss in being ignorant to this news, please tell me your secrets, because I have been rolling my eyes so hard at all of the posturing and think piecing and doing way the fuck too much that has been going on all this week. Now, first and foremost, I would like to reiterate that this conversation is purely and strictly a conversation that is appropriate to have amongst Black people. I am super uninterested in what non-Black people have to say about any of this, and I am absolutely uninterested in what white people have to say about this. And that's not to be shady or exclusive, but it is to say we have our own dynamics and conditions, and you not finna, oh my goodness me, to death over some shit that is actually very legible in Black communities, especially when it doesn't happen on national television and in front of the whole country. If you didn't give a shit that niggas is getting slapped, stabbed, shot, and otherwise in Black communities every single day, please do not take this opportunity to give a shit about it now. Just because it happened on a stage amongst 2 very wealthy Black people doesn't give you the license to share your opinion about it. I mean, you can feel free to sit this one out. We are unbothered and unconcerned about your hot takes. Now, for the white folks in particular, you absolutely have nothing to contribute on this topic. Now, if you're more outraged about Chris Rock getting the shit slapped out of him than you are about the atrocities of enslavement, the violence of colonialism, or even the violent insurrection and attempt to overthrow the United States government that happened on your watch and in your name, you are 100% a part of the problem, and you can get the fuck out and stay out of this conversation. I said what I said, and I'll say it again. Do not give me any of that, because frankly, violence is inherent to whiteness. It is a critical component of how whiteness functions. You get to be white because violence enacted on non-white people every single day enforces and upholds whiteness. So, no more of this shock that y'all are expressing. Hush, darling. Lady also has been incredibly dismayed at how much we as Black people covet the approval of white folks. Now, I saw so many comments this week about how this made us look as a culture, and it made me want to scream. Now, how it made us look exactly to who? I don't know Will Smith or Chris Rock, and I'm willing to bet 99% of you niggas don't either. So what happened between 2 people ain't really got shit to do with me or with you, frankly, and here's why. Everybody involved is going to be fine because they have the money, the power, and the access to be just fine. They have the resources to be resilient. And aside from some memes and maybe some dignity, they finna be all right. Now, as we speak, Chris Rock is making massive money. Will Smith just won an Oscar. He finna be good. Jada gonna be fine. Now, I'm gonna come back to all of them in a minute. But the moral of the story is that what 2 wealthy Black folks do does not reflect on the culture, not in the way you Negroes is talking about. So stop being so worried about what white folk think about you, because I guarantee you the feeling is not the fuck mutual. What racism actually means is that no matter what your individual achievements or personal behavior is, you are going to be judged, scrutinized, and discriminated against because the structure of our society does not allow for exceptions. Just ask Will Smith. So my point here is that you ain't gotta like what he did, but don't do it on behalf of what white people gonna think. Now, here's the other thing annoying to me about this last week. There was a lot of posturing and bullshit. Now, what I hate about us as a society is that we are quick to judge without looking at ourselves and our own contradictions. Now, I saw some of y'all spouting off at the mouth about shit, and I know all y'all in real time, and I was like, that's interesting. Didn't you just tell me how you just got in a physical fist fight with one of your family members a few weeks ago? I mean, what you talking about? Violence is never okay. You were just being violent in your own life. But the difference is you get to live a more private life where not everybody can see all your fucking mess. Humanness, human mess, but mess nonetheless. But don't be over here talking about what the moral and right thing to do is when you don't live up to that standard in your own life. Now, come on, people, just stop this shit. Now, I'm going to say something that's controversial, but should not be. This was not about Jada. It wasn't about protecting her or whatever. This was all about Will and what was going on for Will in that very moment. It wasn't about chivalry. It wasn't about protecting Black women. It wasn't about none of that. It was an emotional response that was all about Will and what he was going through. Now, lots of us hear fucked up shit, see fucked up shit, and we do nothing. And one thing we should understand as Black people specifically is what it feels like to not be able to do anything when someone we love is under attack in some way. Now, at this point, that shit's like in our DNA. Consequences are different for us when we fight back. And just because it happened between two Black people on the white man stage doesn't change the fact that this is a very, very human response to a perception of dehumanization. Chris Rock said some shit that was foul. It wasn't the worst thing he's ever said. Now, if I was going to run back the tapes, I would say it was worse when he sat up there with Louis C.K. and Jerry Seinfeld as the only Black person on the stage and let Louis C.K. talk about how him and Chris both say nigger with the hard ER. Now, that is way worse and way more destructive, frankly, than Chris getting the taste slapped out his mouth because he fucked around and found out. Now, Will was not defending Jada's honor. He was defending his own. That man and his family has been the butt of a lot of jokes over the last 2 years, not just this one. But this one was one of the only times he could reach out and touch somebody, if you catch my drift, and I most definitely understand that. Now, I don't condone it, but I understand it. And let me tell you something. I have imagined it myself. Now, I, however, do not have access, money, and power like they do. And so, unless I want my Black ass to sit in jail because niggas is itching to get one off on the Black Lives Matter lady, I can't give these hands to as many people as deserve these hands. And I do believe that sometimes people ask for the hands they receive. Now, I am not a Buddhist and I am not a pacifist. I believe in and mostly practice the principles of nonviolence, but I'm gonna tell you something. I also believe in the laws of cause and effect. And so, I am sorry to all the white folks who have been running around using the phrase, fuck around and find out, but ain't really known what it meant. Now you know. And it really should have been over right then and there. This is not about people having thin skin. You really just have no idea on what condition you are going to catch people in during any given moment. And so in the Lord's year of 2022, after 2 years of this bizarre state of being with this fucking pandemic, it's best not to fuck around unless you'd like to find out. Now, this is the last thing I'm gonna say about this because I don't know shit about Will and Jada's relationship besides that they've opened it up to all of us fucking vultures in really unfortunate ways when clearly they are still working out and working on their shit. Ain't no way in hell this should go any further than the slap heard across the world. I wish the Academy would try and enact some, what are they calling it? Disciplinary measures on something they failed to intervene in at the moment. And all this pearl clutching needs to end today. Today, right now. Now, today ain't the day to try to be a good Black to these white people. And yesterday wasn't the day either to allow these people to become some kind of arbiters of morality. You motherfuckers let Harvey Weinstein, okay, collect about 1,000 awards on that stage, even though he was committing violent acts left and right, all throughout your industry. Those women didn't fuck around only to find out. They were abused. And a lot of you motherfuckers looked the other way. I know good and damn well you ain't finna talk one word about morality when you motherfuckers celebrated, and I mean celebrated, Woody Allen all these years on that very stage. That nigga married his stepdaughter. Okay, so does anyone actually need to be the arbiter of morality here? Or can we just say, hey, Will, bro, you good? What you need? Because you clearly had a moment over there, bruh. Can we just say, hey, Chris, you good? You might want to rethink and rein in that shit for a little bit, bro. You know, no need to cap on sis and her bald head. She actually has a disease. Can we just say, Jada, sis, you good? Can you and Will deal with your shit in private so y'all can really heal without trying to turn it into some ratings? And then once we do that, can we actually move the fuck on? It ain't like this erupted into a mob brawl. And sure, there are many, many musings to be had on violence, disability, gender, and the white gaze, and how much Black folks still crave it. But for now, I fear we gonna have to focus on stopping these Oscars people in their tracks, because they about to be out of their lane. And we all know what happens when you get out your lane. You liable to cause an accident. Now that's that on that. Other things Lady just ain't gonna do this week is act like reparations ain't due to all Black people and not just some Black people. So leave it to California to be fucking bizarre. California's Reparations Task Force just voted 5-4 to offer reparations to Black American descendants of slaves, but not Black people everywhere. The California Reparations Task Force was established as a result of Assembly Bill 3121 to study and develop recommendations and proposals for reparations for African Americans, to determine the best way to educate Californians about the need for reparations, and to identify appropriate remedies. Now, notice I did not say that this task force has any teeth or power, nor has California agreed to actually pay reparations. However, California is the first state in the nation to establish such a task force, and that does count for something. In this case, this task force voted narrowly this week that reparations should only be paid to descendants of free and enslaved Black people who were in the United States in the 19th century, as opposed to all Black people who were impacted by the slave trade, regardless of lineage. Now, though possibly, most likely well-meaning, this proposal, in Lady's opinion, is unfortunately deeply misguided. If we merely look at lineage alone, there are more white people in the United States that are direct descendants of enslaved Black people than there are Black people who are direct descendants of enslaved Black people. Yeah, I said that. And when you limit reparations based on lineage as opposed to the brutal system of race, you also unfortunately miss that part. That this proposal would likely, if it were to have any power, end up distributing the majority of whatever money we're talking about to white people. Furthermore, slavery was not uniquely a United States mechanism. It was a global mechanism that extracted wealth and labor for the purposes of profit. Now, instead of targeting Black people, why not target the colonial powers who established slavery in the first place? Why would we not be demanding reparations from the United States and France and Portugal and Spain and Britain? Why are we so focused on which Black people get reparations, as opposed to making sure that all the colonial powers involved are held accountable? Now, I have said this before, and I will say it again. I am all for reparations, and I am all for making sure that Black folks get our due. I am also all for understanding the complex and nuanced history of enslavement and how it established the world that we live in today. And in no way I'm on board for a proposal that lets folks off the hook based on some ain't enough for all of us to go around type shit. Okay. Let's move on to things that Lady loves this week. Here's what we want more of, okay? We need to move on. Lady loves that an anti-lynching bill was signed into law this week. Now, after more than 100 years and 200 attempts of this failing to get this law through Congress, President Biden signed the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act on Tuesday, which makes lynching a crime punishable by up to 30 years in prison. And it gives the federal government more tools to prosecute hate crimes and racial terror. Lynching can broadly be defined as the public killing of a person who has not received due process. And this new law defines lynching as whoever conspires to commit a hate crime offense that results in death or serious bodily injury that includes kidnapping or an attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, shall, if death or serious bodily injury results from the offense. Now, that's interesting. The bill would also allow for consequences for everybody involved, regardless of their role in the crime. This is an important symbolic first step that we hope gives up some substantive goods. Other things Lady loves this week: best friends and desert winds. I can't get into it all, but this week was really rough on Lady. And so we are giving shout outs to all the things that make it a little bit better: besties and desert winds. Now, y'all know I'm a Bay girl who will soon be a Southern belle, but I am stuck between my old life and my new life, and there is all kinds of turbulence in there, suffice it to say. And luckily, in the face of all that, I had the good sense to change my environment and get some perspective. And so I just so happened to have a bestie who lives in the desert, and so where did I go? Directly to the damn desert. Now, I am not at all going to apologize for being in some eat, pray, love stance right now, honey. There is nothing like that dry desert heat to dry up those tears. Now, hopefully soon you'll hear that I'm doing much better, and I promise you it'll come. But until then, just know I'm depending on deserts and besties to get me through.